Hey guys, turkey season is in full swing right now, and if you are planning on getting after it, make sure to pick up some Meat Eater Phelps turkey calls to stuff into the old turkey vest or into your fanny pack right now. I carry a few different things. I like to use mouth calls, and I like to use pot calls. Mouth calls or diaphragms, I like them because it gives you hand-free calling, meaning when you're working a bird up close, you can have your gun on your knee, finger on the trigger, ready to roll, and still be making turkey sounds. I like pot calls because I just like pot calls. I enjoy calling with a pot call. Whatever direction you go, including a box call, which I don't personally use too much, but they're fun and great, and I started out with them. Yanni, on the other hand, one of my main turkey hunting buddies, he loves box calls. And what's funny is I'll now and then look to him and give him the look that means get out your box call and find us a turkey. So it's not that I don't like him. I just have Yanni use his. Then I don't have to carry it. Go to Phelps Game Calls. Get calls that are made in the USA and get calls that'll get them close. Find yours at phelpsgamecalls.com today.
Hey y'all, I'm KC.
And I'm Tyler.
And this is the elk hunting series from the Element Podcast.
If you want to get on elk, it helps to hang with dudes that know elk.
And that ain't us, but luckily the dudes that know elk have cell phones, and we called them up.
So whether you're a veteran of September or you're just cutting your ivories in the elk woods, you're going to hear something here that'll help you get the full draw this fall.
If you find this podcast helpful, poke that subscribe button and go check out our elk hunting playlist on YouTube. Now let's rock and roll. All right, guys, on the show today, we have got Zack Boughton from Montana Wild. Dude, what's happening today?
Not much, man. Just got off work, so.
Yeah? Yeah? That's cool.
Now it's home projects.
Man,
so
you
work
aren't.
never ends.
You're essential, huh? You had to go into work.
Had to go into work. We've been essential the whole time.
Have you?
You don't want to go down the rabbit hole with me because I'm very against what's going on in the world.
Dude, believe me, we're right there with you. Luckily, Tyler and I are pretty much self-employed, so we kind of get to not do what we want to by any means, but at least we get to decide our essentialness.
That's nice.
Yeah, but I'm sure things got a little bit crazy up there. I think, who was I talking to? I don't know. One of my buddies from Bozeman, and it was Joel Webster, which I think he's actually from Missoula, but did I say that right, Missoula? They kind of get a little thing on
Missoula.
Yeah. But he was just saying how it's just kind of ridiculous and whatnot. And anyways, are y'all kind of back to normal, or is life still kind of crazy?
I mean, everything was my life has changed zero.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were able to work the entire time.
Yeah.
And most of the businesses remained open other than restaurants, but honestly, I don't got to eat that much, so it didn't really bother me.
There you go. You get a couple of elk in the freezer. You don't have to go out, right?
Yeah. And then, I mean, there's a mask mandate, but honestly, like, I haven't worn a mask the entire time, other than when they first mandated it. I couldn't get in to, like, Bob Ward Sporting Goods and, like, Target, so I, like, slapped one on until I figured out what was going on, but I haven't worn one since, so I think it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, there you go.
So there's a lot to talk about there, but
oh yeah, well, we'll let you get on Ben Shapiro or something and talk about that politics stuff. But we're here to talk about elk hunting today, man. So how I got to know who you are is that you are one of the brothers and one of the brains behind Montana Wild, which is like an epic film production company there out of the namesake Montana, right? And how did y'all get into the film stuff, man?
I mean, it really kind of started in high school, and we were doing a bunch of skiing at the time.
Yeah.
And ski films, this is, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago now. So a while ago. And ski films are really the only real content that, you would consume to get excited to go skiing. And so that was kind of, something that was big for us. We were definitely watching all the ski films and going skiing, and just kind of wanted, I guess, to start making some little edits. And this is kind of the initial days of kind of YouTube, or not even YouTube, but I remember new schoolers little ski forums,
Yeah.
freestyle skiing website, and there were a lot of people that would upload edits to that. And so that whole thread for us is what started us using the camera. And then I went to school in Bozeman, skied quite a bit. I went to school, wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and just moved to Missoula, which is where my brother was going to school at the time. And we'd always been really close growing up and hadn't seen him in a few years. And I was just like, I'll do business classes. I don't know exactly what I want to do, but kind of feel like I want to run my own business at some point. And so I moved there, and essentially the skiing sucked, and Rock Creek is right there, and it's world-class fishery. And ever since I'd moved to Montana, you know, I just kind of felt like the vibe was different and I should go hunting. And so basically that year I taught myself how to fish and learned how to hunt. Basically went on a hunt with a good friend now, Tyler McCann, and was hooked from there. And that was just kind of turned my life into an obsession of hunting and fishing. And we were just so blown away with the experiences we were having that we took what we knew about building content from skiing and just translated it over to hunting and fishing, and pretty quickly realized there wasn't much content out there that was being created in that thread of the experience and everything that revolved around those activities. It was more just, you know, good old boys in hunting camp and then a kill shot. And that was about it. So we just started building content and found a niche and ran with it.
Yeah, man, and y'all definitely did and do. It's pretty cool. And I think actually I probably started, taking in some of y'all's content from the fishing side of things. And then, what was it? It was some hunt. I think it was probably your first elk hunt that well, not your first elk hunt, but the first time I saw you elk hunting was you shot that big bull over a wallow, which was pretty epic. And then, you know, we always eat up the fly fishing stuff, man. And it's pretty cool. Tyler and I have probably, how many days have we spent in Bozeman? 5 days?
Yeah, 4 or 5 days.
And then you realize that, like, whenever you are living somewhere like y'all do, that is legit the best backdrop to anything ever in the outdoor scape. Like, you're almost compelled to make film, right?
Yeah, it was definitely hard to not make films. We filmed almost every day we went out for a long time.
Yeah.
It's just like get the exposure right, and you've got a award-winning shot there. You know, it's like everywhere you look from Bozeman, there's beautiful landscape, right?
Yeah, it's definitely not hard to get some good quality stuff.
Yeah, as long as it's not a smoke day, right? But
it's harder to piece it together and have it make sense. But if you want to go just get pretty photos and video, you can definitely do it pretty easy.
Yeah. Well, storytelling is a whole another thing, and that's where, you know, the rubber meets the road. But yeah. So y'all did the Montana Wild thing. You're still doing that. Do you feel like, speaking of storytelling, Tyler and I struggle with this, and we're gonna get to elk hunting sooner or later in this talk. But we gotta talk about this a little bit. But man, y'all made and still do make epic films that were kind of the long form thing, and it's like the nature of the beast that YouTube rewards people for the vlog type, consistent content type stuff. Do you feel like that's really kind of killing the artistry that can be put into outdoor cinematography?
No, I mean, I think honestly it's opening the door for people to do more of it, just because the market's been flooded with a bunch of just garbage quality video. It's not that it's not entertaining for people, and that people are going to tune in, but the quality is not there. You know, everyone's going to have a vlog and a series. It's so unoriginal that I think the door's, you know, pretty open for people that want to actually invest serious time into making, you know, one production that's really epic and just showcases the time that you would invest to have to build something out like that. But I mean, there's not a reward from YouTube or anything like that. That's for sure. There's no, you know, big traffic numbers that you can call out over a single year. But I've never had to, you know, sell my business on any numbers ever once, you know. So that's been pretty nice. People will hopefully value quality content that's on brand and fits their brand versus, you know, spending them a number.
Sure. But, you know, so my question is to you, is, you know, going forward, because you guys, you know, you were I would say pretty early. I don't know, like pioneer or whatever you want to call it. You guys were early into the game of like the cinematic, high quality, longer format stuff. And so for you, it was something that you did well and therefore were rewarded by it. But at this point, there's a lot of people that have tried to, whether super successful or just kind of successful or very successful, have tried to do the same type of thing with a little higher quality and that kind of thing. And to me, it just feels like that if you were to go in and if, say, you're 20 years old today and you want to start this deal that's just, say, Montana Wild, like, are you going to be able?
Mild. That's already taken.
Are you gonna be able to, like, cut through the mix and do that at this point very successfully, or has it already been done? You know what I mean?
If you're 20 and you know what you're doing and you have a mindset that's savvy to both your viewers as well as the business side of things, man, you should be able to crush.
Really? You think
People
so?
just don't want to put the work in. People do not want to put the work in. It's hands down the limiting factor. No one wants to spend 2 or 3 years before they get remotely close to where they want to be. But
Yeah. No, I just wondered because it seems like, to me, it just seems like a lot of these companies that used to support these longer format, high quality films are getting away from spending money on those as for forms of advertisement and that kind of thing. So it just kind of, you see like these vlogs being successful, and it's kind of, everybody's kind of trying to shift that way, it feels like, to me at least. And so it just makes me wonder, if it is, because I think you're right. I think the opportunity to be creative and do something original is there, but I just don't know. Like, to me, I'm not sure about the market for it, whether it's on the consumer end or just being paid from companies to do that. It doesn't seem like sponsor dollars are going there and all that kind of stuff. Do you feel that at all or not?
No. I mean,
okay.
I think
that's good to know. Yeah. Because I love doing that stuff.
It's accessible as it's ever been. I mean, the market's more flooded, but if you're the best there is, the space for you, the position for you is still there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're middle of the pack, it sucks because it's just the money doesn't make it that far down the ladder,
Yeah.
But if you're at the top of the game, I mean, it really is inconsequential, in my opinion, of what the market's doing. I think, or the industry, I think everyone would be smart if they run their own business to self-monetize to some extent, because it's a little tough and frustrating, especially on the creative side of things, to just only get paid via brands. A lot of them are pretty relaxed and let you do a lot of what you want. Others ask a lot of you. We were always going to only endorse and utilize products we believed in, so we never bought into any of the bullshit.
Sure.
I think our followers really valued that, but, some people definitely can't play that game. Money talks for a lot of people. But, yeah, I think there's plenty of room to do it better. I mean, there honestly is really no one in the game that I actually enjoy or look forward to watching their content. I mean, honestly, the content I enjoy watching are honestly like brand releases, and even stuff just outside of our industry.
Yeah.
Just all the content, just no one wants, the production value is not there. The storytelling is not there. No one wants to lug a heavy ass camera and a tripod and like make sure that they get the shots and go through the pre-production and get the audio right and make sure that the hunter's, listening to his cameraman and working together.
I think that's why it's easier to make
stories out. It's like, hey man, I can get a YouTube channel and my Instagram going, and I'll have, my little camera, and I'll get some clips and slap them together and it'll be cool. It's like, it's cool, but
yeah. I think it's easier. That's why it's easier to make an epic fishing film than a hunting film, because you can replicate a dry fly take a few times, but there's only one shot. Like the other night we went and just kind of for fun went and filmed a hog hunt, and I didn't get the shot on film because it's behind a tree. And it's like, well, that whole evening didn't quite make. You wait until the whole story with the film. It's just, and then you're like, well, I got to do a whole new one. It's just kind of frustrating, But
it just takes a lot of time of experience of like, all right, I have to tell the story of this hunt. It only lays out one time. Like I have to be on the ball.
Yeah.
You know, like audio has to be money, focus, exposure, my framing, what shots I'm shooting, being in position, not spooking the animal, not messing with my hunter, communicating with my hunter.
Yeah. That pre-production is pretty key when it comes to that stuff too, man. You know, like we've, like my sister is an author. And so I've asked her several times over the years, I'm like, you know, what's the best way to tell a story? You know, like, I mean, and obviously that's a vague question. I get more detailed at times, but that's the general thesis around my questions is, you know, how do you tell a story better? I'm always trying to pick up on the things that she does as an author to do that, you know, and hopefully implying those into a hunting video, you know, so it's difficult at times, man, but that pre-production can really help you once you get out into the field, I feel like, you know.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, it's just a repetition thing. I mean, I don't know how many times I've stared at my computer trying to script out something and nothing good happens. But if I do it 20 times, I end up getting to a spot that it's actually pretty good, you know?
Right. Yeah. So are you guys, do you have any plans to like fill that niche of something that Zack Boughton would want to watch in the hunting world?
I wish I could say yes. I'm definitely going to make a film this fall. At least that's the plan. We'll film just one hunt, I think. It'll be like a mountain mule deer hunt. And I always like filming stuff that personally I think is dope, even though it's going to be a pain in the ass to film. And chances are we don't shoot anything, which is another reason people don't film certain stuff. You know, it's like, oh, do you want to go film like in post hauling in snow and it's, you know, 5 to 30 degrees, potentially blowing snow all day.
Nope.
Every day. No. And we might not see any animals.
That sounds fun.
But you need to be dedicated to the craft and the story and not, you know, lose focus. But those are the things that I get stoked on as a hunter. You know? Those are the things that motivate me. It's hard, you know. I work with a bunch of young photographers and content creators because I started a hunting photography course with my buddy Stephen Drake, just called The Hunting Photographer. And there's just a bunch of guys that I know that I kind of almost get more enjoyment out of trying to mentor them. So
that's cool.
I probably won't be the one that films it. So that's always kind of a limiting factor. You know, I obviously have a lot of experience and
young guys don't.
These young guys, they just don't.
Yeah.
They have the ability to outperform me hands down. It's just a matter of if they want to stick with it and keep doing it.
Who do you see
over and over
wanting to do that, to get into that, the video side? Is it guys who have accomplished things in hunting, or they want to figure out how to be you know, a cameraman for TV shows, or like who are the guys who are your clientele for that thing? Or is it like guys coming from other industries wanting to learn more about the hunting side of stuff?
I don't think there's too many big time hunters that are doing it other than my buddy Sam Averett. He's a big hunter and I hunt with him and he's an awesome photographer. But yeah, I mean, most of the other guys enjoy, you know, capturing and sharing the hunt and telling that story as much as hunting themselves. And that's really the key, I think, is if you can't prioritize the filming and the documenting of the hunt, you're never going to be the best, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of the sacrifice you have to make if you want to create content around hunting or fishing or whatever it is. You can't be in front and behind the camera both. So it's usually not guys that really like hunting or fishing.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, you get spend less time with the bow in your hand for sure.
Yeah.
So earlier you were talking about, you know, toting in a heavy camera and all that stuff, and done a little bit of that. It's terrible, but last year I did purchase a Stone Glacier pack. So here you go. There's your plug, man. But
yeah, man.
Yeah, use that thing in the Gila Wilderness, and it was pretty epic. And you are employed there at Stone Glacier, and y'all make some good stuff. So I would assume that being employed at Stone Glacier, especially after talking to Pete, like you kind of got to walk the talk, you know? So you've been doing a lot of backpack hunting through the years?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty fortunate. I got a hunt, and more than most people, even while documenting hunts, because it was my brother and I, and so we just always switched on and off.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like one man's job split between two. So half of my job, like, we were just so busy because our job was to be proficient in front of the camera and behind it, which is a pretty rare situation. You know, we had to be skilled fly fishermen, skilled bow hunters, skilled rifle hunters. You know, we filmed all this stuff from coyote hunting to antelope archery to archery elk, rifle elk, archery deer, hunt deer in eastern Montana, hunting them in the mountains, hunting black bear, you know. So I would say that not the best hunter out there. I think I know enough to be deadly.
Yeah.
I've definitely spent a lot of time out backpack hunting, and I would definitely not hesitate to keep up and handle some pretty crappy conditions with the best of them. Mm-hmm. I definitely wouldn't say I'm the most knowledgeable animal hunting, guy that knows everything, where they're going to be, when they're going to be, that type of stuff.
Yeah,
but as far as going out there doing it, being a savage and backpack hunting, I feel like I've been able to, I would confidently say that I feel like I can hang with most dudes on that stuff.
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time.
That's a lot of guys
it.
listening right now,
I think that a lot of that was just because I had to do it with camera gear.
Yeah.
My pack's always 10 or 15 pounds heavier, so you just kind of have to develop that mental toughness and fortitude.
Yeah, that's what makes me laugh about those dudes who saw toothbrushes in half. Is like, you apparently don't film your hunts, because I have toted a few batteries around in my pack, and that crap's heavy, not to mention big lenses and all that stuff, So, the whole ounces are pounds and pounds is pain is kind of, that's not really true, especially if you're filming your stuff. But, on that note, what are the things that you really need to keep in mind when it comes to trying to survive, 3 or 4 days out there by yourself, or not by yourself, but with your life on your back?
I mean, shelter, food, water is pretty simple, basic stuff. I mean, having good gear goes a long ways, and being more comfortable out there costs a lot more money, but it's definitely valuable, and I would say a good investment if you're serious about doing it over the long term.
Yeah.
I think having something like an inReach or a way to communicate is pretty handy as far as giving you some peace of mind, or other people peace of mind. But I don't know, man. I feel like common sense just goes a long ways. I don't feel like there ever was a big learning curve for me, but I'm just kind of that type A personality that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to be prepared, and I'm going to think it out, and I'm going to spend probably too much time researching and making sure I know how to do it, versus, someone that's just going to kind of loosely go for it. Mm-hmm. Not there's anything wrong with that, but that's not me. So
yeah. Did you gradually go into overnighters? I don't know if you can remember back to your first one or whatever, but you're like, okay, I'm going to go out for one night and make it, and then I'm going to go out for 3, and then I'm going to go on a hunt? Or was it just nope, I'm going to just make this hunt happen this year in a backpack style, and it's going to be fine?
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much went for it pretty early on in the game. I mean, the only bad experience I remember is packing my first bull out, and I had an Eberly stock pack that just killed my shoulders.
Yeah.
Ever since then, I just I'm going to have a good backpack.
Yeah.
Because this is miserable. Other than that, I mean, I always kind of knew that good boots were a necessity, and we had spent some time, I think when we first started, Travis was still working at Bob Ward's, so we had access to some discounts. So, we had spent some time being pretty avid at skiing and other activities. So we kind of knew the value of good gear.
Yeah.
And so we maybe kind of jumped past some of that natural progression that a guy would have if he hasn't hunted, where maybe he thinks he can go with a cheaper alternative and then finds out later that he should have just got the quality piece from the get-go. So I think we were set up pretty well, off the bat. And so we didn't have too many hiccups. Obviously, you dial in your kit, or like, man, like I didn't pay attention. The sleeping bag's pretty bulky. It works great, but it doesn't fit in my pack, or like I need more space, or why did I bring this, or oh, I forgot my toothbrush and I don't have a lens container and a small, thing of contact solution because we always wore contacts. So just, stupid little stuff like that. But
yeah,
the bulk of it, and especially now with there's so much information out there, I feel like guys get all hung up on what they need to bring, but it seems pretty cut and dry, I guess, to me.
Yeah. And I think I learned that some last year. We kind of just jumped right into it because I drew a pretty good tag that required it. And, we didn't do too bad as far as the backcountry stuff goes, but I definitely think I can cut some stuff that, you read on the internet that you need, and then you get out there and you're like, I never touched that. This is dumb.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of opinion on a lot of different gear and product and whatnot for the backcountry, you work for Stone Glacier. There's a lot of good pack companies. There's a lot of good apparel companies. There's a lot of good this and that. But one of the things I'm always interested in from guys is their water system, because I think that's something that, A, it's life or death, and B, it's things that dudes don't have any brand loyalty or anything to, so they're just trying to find the absolute best thing that works, right? So, what's your water system look like?
Right now I'm running either a Sawyer squeeze or I have a Steri pen that I use because once temperatures get down to freezing, at least the Sawyer squeeze, it can freeze if there's water in there, and then it won't work. And so, I pretty much run those two systems early season. I mean, the Sawyers they're light and they're easy and don't cost that much money.
Yeah.
I guess I would just say take more than one of the there's a bag that you fill up and then squeeze it through the filter. Take more than one bag.
Yeah.
The first time I was introduced to it, my buddy had it and he only had one bag, and then it broke, and it was about impossible to squeeze water through there without having dirty water leak out and go right down the same filter into your bottle. So
not good. No.
No. And then the Steri pen's great. I mean, it seems like magic. It's just using UV light, but
yeah,
I pretty much switch because I'll run a platypus bladder, but as soon as it becomes a freezing temperature situation, your tube's going to most likely freeze up. I'll run Nalgene's at that point, and then it's just so easy to use the Steri pen with the Nalgene's that I just switch my whole system to that.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, then you pretty much stole our system, I promise. No, you've been doing it longer than we have, but that's the same thing Tyler and I both do is kind of go back and forth between. Well, we have Sawyer Minis, which I think I'm going to try to get a regular standard this year because those Minis don't convey enough volume, it seems like. It's just kind of tedious to get a whole liter. It might take you 5 or 6 minutes to make a whole liter squeeze when I've heard that the regular, or I don't know what they call them, the Sawyer is a little quicker, but our Walmarts don't carry that, so I need the Mini. But it always sketches me out a little bit on the Steri pen because, if you fill up your Nalgene and you stick the Steri pen in there, there's a little bit of water around the outside that isn't really getting Steri pinned. You know what I mean? So I always feel like it's a little bit of an incomplete system, but I haven't got sick yet. I don't know. Water kind of sketches me.
You'd have to be in some pretty sketchy water for that to keep you sick.
Well, last year, we were in the desert Southwest, and we had to go to cattle tanks pretty much, and it was pretty sketchy water. It tasted terrible. If we hadn't had flavorings, dude, I don't think I could have done it. It was straight up algae water. It's just.
I think if the water's really, really bad, a pump or some other system that you squeeze it through the filter, it's probably best. But I mean, I bet I could get away with drinking the water in so many places that I filter it. It's not even funny. But
man, that's cool.
I try to err on the side of safety.
Yeah.
Early in the spring, I mean, there was plenty of times I just filled my Nalgene up on the mountain, but
that's true. Snow melt, it's probably pretty clean.
When you get up there pretty high and snow melt, and there's not that many animals, and there's no cattle or anything like that, I mean, it'd be pretty rare circumstance. I think you get sick, but you never know.
Are you on a hunt? If you're on the hunt, are you storing some water when you go past it, or are you just planning on this is how much I need for a day, and every night when we come back to camp, we're going to get it from this creek or whatever and fill up and go?
It kind of just depends on how much water's available. Mm-hmm. If it's tough to get water, I'll just sack up and carry a day or longer on my back. Mm-hmm. I usually try to carry, if the water's limited, I'll try to carry enough water to get me through the rest of the day, that night, and the next morning. Because if you hunt hard all day and water's 1,200 feet down below you, you're not going to want to go down there. No. And I'd rather just carry that extra water with me.
Yeah.
And then deal with it the next day when I'm moving around, hunting again. But if water's super plentiful, I'll honestly just carry pretty limited amounts. Like I was out scouting the other weekend, and I think I had 11 or 12 miles to get back to the truck, and I pretty much only put about 20 or 30 ounces in my bladder, just enough to kind of get me up into the saddle. And then I basically filled up again as soon as I'd gained all that vert. So, again, I think that's pretty common sense stuff, is try to think about where you're going to be and how you're going to hunt.
Yeah. So speaking
you can't hunt well. You can't perform well if you're not hydrated. So I always err on the side of having plenty of food and having plenty of water and having a good sleeping pad and sleeping well, because I don't care how savage you are. If you don't eat anything, you don't drink anything, and you don't sleep, your body's going to shut down and suck. It's going to let you down.
Peeing's one of my favorite pastimes, actually. I love peeing.
Nice.
Plenty of water.
Yeah.
Yeah. And dude, I don't know, like maybe it's just being a flatlander or what, but it just seems like it takes like 3+ liters a day for me up there just for drinking alone, not to mention the 8, 12, whatever you got to have for your meal at night and all that. It takes quite a bit once you start really thinking about it. We do some truck camping, do some backpacking, but a lot of times our truck camping's remote, nowhere near water, so you got to bring the big jugs with you, and it's crazy how fast you go through those things, whenever you're making food and all that kind of stuff. So it takes a lot of prep, and you got to know where you're going, what you're doing. And speaking of locations, a lot of the world kind of zones in on Colorado for elk hunting for good reason, because it's a really great opportunity state. And some of the other podcasts we've done, we've talked a lot about Colorado because, we talked to some guys from there and whatnot, and that's where we're going this year. But you're from a different part of the country, and one of the reasons that we actually like going to Colorado is that you don't have to deal with grizzlies. Man, they sketch me out pretty good, and it's just
You're the kind of guys I like. And you stay out on all my spots.
That's right, man. No, I'm not watching any Montana Wild videos trying to creep and figure out where y'all are, because I ain't into it. Maybe one of these days.
Well, I'm saying I have no problem. I like hunting grizzly spots, because then I know guys aren't showing up.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about. It's kind of like, I always think of it as a negative, but I know that there is that part to it where it's like, there's only a percentage of the hunters out there that are comfortable hunting in grizz country. And, it sounds like you are. Is that something that you just came into, or did you have to really take some steps to get comfortable with it?
No, I mean, I probably was erred on the side of being less worried about it than maybe I should be. I don't know. I think if you actually look at the statistics, I mean, your chances of dying just driving down the road is pretty astronomically greater than being attacked by a grizzly bear. So it's all about perspective, right?
Yeah. But
there's a lot more people driving.
There's more people driving, and I ain't living in grizzly country. If you put yourself in their bedroom, But I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think if you're smart and don't do anything real stupid, then your odds go down even more.
Do you mean like walk around the woods and make food sounds to grizzlies? Is that what you mean by do something stupid?
Well, see, I primarily bugle, so they'd have to really be hungry. They'd want to have to take down a big angry bull elk versus like a cow or a calf or something, I guess.
Don't go a whole lot and sound like a little calf. It's a bad deal.
I mean, it's stuff like, hey, if I'm hiking in the dark and grizzly bear country, I'm going to pull my bear spray out or my handgun and have it in my hand, have it ready. Or, this spring we saw 2 giant grizzlies where we had to go hike through super fast to get on these black bears. and started getting thick, I just pulled my bear spray out in my hand. You know, I'm not scared, but I know that if there's one in here, we're probably going to have a closer, quicker encounter. I'm just going to be a little bit more prepared. You know, for me, it doesn't bother me that much. I think hunting would be pretty lame if there was no element of risk involved, at least for me. And like, it wouldn't be fun if it wasn't wild. Like, I'm great with grizzly bears. I'm great with wolves. I think we need to manage them a lot more than we do.
Yeah.
I don't think that grizzlies have a great appreciation of like the human threat at the moment.
I can see.
Yeah.
But I've never had a bad encounter with a bear yet. And hopefully I don't. But, you know, I mean, if you talk to guys like Clay Lancaster, who's a big sheep guide from AK, and I spent time with him documenting a sheep hunt in Mexico this year. You know, I don't know how many times he's been bluff charged by grizzlies, 40, 50 times. I mean, and he'd probably have some pretty good stuff to say about it. I mean, I feel like grizzlies generally are just going about their business, you know. I mean, it's a weird, odd scenario where they attack a human in wild places.
Yeah.
You know,
you mentioned a handgun as well. What kind of handgun do you carry in grizzly country?
I just run a Glock 10 millimeter.
That's pretty bad news gun.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Carry it on my hip and, you know, have one in the chamber and ready to roll.
Yeah.
But you reach for the spray first.
No, if I got the gun, I'm reaching for the gun.
Gotcha. So the spray is kind of like well, you said, you know, you get your spray out or whatever if you're walking through stuff, but you think like in the hairy scenario.
I don't always carry the gun.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling weighed down, the gun gets left.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. What about if you are walking into like a gut pile or getting the second load? What's your precautions for that?
I mean, just try to get a visual sight on the carcass, and, you know, I guess when I leave, be taking some mental cues on how it looked when we left, and see if it's disturbed, make some noise, go in there. But I mean, once you're there, I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah.
Do you go back at night?
Guys. Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
for sure. I don't really see any difference between night and day, other than you can see a little bit further. But I mean, at night, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so
like 17 miles further.
If I want to go in and get my meat, I'm going to go in and get my meat. You know?
Yeah. I can see where there's
if it's cold and I can come back the next day in daylight, I probably will. But if it's like, need to get this bowl out, like, I'm definitely going back in the dark.
Yeah. I can see where there's like always like a risk versus reward on, you know, if you can go in and get the whole thing out in 6 hours, then a Grizz doesn't have time to set up its, you know, or find the kill or whatever, you know. But at the same time, if it does get there in hour 6 and it's 1 a.m. in the morning, it's a pretty sketch situation.
For me.
Some of it, though, I think is like the savage nature of like, even if there is a Grizz in there, like, I'm going to go in there and like claim my kill, get the hell out of there, you know?
Yeah, and then there will be a poop ball named Zack one day. No, I'm just kidding, man.
There could be, or there's going to be a dead grizzly.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping to
find out.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, for sure, man. What about like, you know, you talked about walking around and you mostly bugle. Is that something that you think is just because that's your style and you enjoy that type of encounter, or is that like what you think is the most effective in y'all's mountains?
I mean, I just like killing bulls that way is all.
Yeah.
To me, that's the ultimate way, the way that I enjoy the most as far as hunting them.
Yeah.
I cow call and I've cow called bulls and stuff like that. But I mean, if you're hunting the rut, it's because the bulls are bugling and that's the excitement of it all. So I don't see how it gets better than a bull wanting to come in and kick your ass and you fooled them and put an arrow in them. So
yeah. It's pretty exhilarating.
I mean, if there's a big bull and he's with cows and he's bugling pretty regularly, I'm probably not going to say a word to him and try to sneak in silently. But if that doesn't work, I'm definitely not going to not hunt him. I'm not, I'm going to resort to bugling and trying to find a way to get close enough to piss him off and pull him away. But I'm situational in how I hunt him, but my preferred method is
every day I'm in the field, I'm going to be ripping a bugle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
unless I literally just left the truck and I see a huge bull that's bugling and he's got 30 cows, then I might not, but
yeah. Shoot, man, when I go up and like on vacation in the summertime in the mountains, I got to rip a bugle just because it's what you do. You get out there. It's just like, it's just the call you got to make, man. It just feels right, and it's just what you do. But, so
I think it's a technique that like probably is not as effective if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty easy for a bull to figure out that you're saying the wrong stuff or you don't sound right pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm almost okay with it. I'm not like, don't bugle unless you're good. It's like, that almost makes it better for me because, I've spent the time to learn how to make sounds that I think are pretty realistic as far as an animal.
Yeah.
Understanding it.
Tell me your biggest mistake when it like, not something you repeatedly do because it sounds like you learn from your experiences, but like the worst thing you ever did in a calling scenario. Oh, come on. There's got to be one.
I don't know. See, I'm a bad person when you're like, tell me that one time. That's the worst. What's your favorite hunt ever? I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Have you ever had calling mess up a hunt, though, where if you were quiet or whatever, it'd been better?
Oh, I'm sure I messed up a million of them. Yeah. I mean, half the time you don't know what happened, Unless you had a visual on that animal, it's pretty tough to say. If it was your calling, if it was the wind, if you didn't make enough noise, if you made too much noise, who knows? Yeah,
for sure. Do you feel like are you like a herd bull hunter, or do you just go after bulls and shoot a legal bull and you're happy with it because you got the meat?
I'm primarily a trophy hunter at this point.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a bad thing in the least bit.
Nah, as long as you're using what you kill too, it's a part of it,
I enjoy the challenge of it. I mean, depending on what I'm doing and why I'm out there, and if we're building content around it, sometimes that'll alter that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm just hunting for me, I'm definitely trying to kill a bigger, mature herd bull for sure.
Yeah. So
passed on a lot of legal bulls in pursuit of something bigger.
Yeah. Man, not me. That's different whenever, you live out of state and, you just kind of get to go every now and then, and you like to eat elk and you don't have list B cow tags or anything that you can go, shoot in November. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It kind of comes in waves though, because, my freezer's actually getting a little bit slimmer pickings at this point in time. So,
yeah.
And if I haven't killed a big bull in a few years, I'm kind of like, hey, I'm going to kill one this year. So,
I mean, it may not be elk, but whitetails are an option there around Bozeman. I know you guys think of them as rats, but there's a bunch of them around there, right?
Oh, yeah. We have some good whitetail hunting in Montana.
Yeah.
I'd love to do it more, but I just love mule deer, too. And
Sure. It's just a deer tag, right?
I wish you didn't have to wear, hunter's orange if you're bow hunting, out of a tree stand during rifle season, because it seems like, archery hunting whitetails in the rut's probably pretty awesome.
Yep. Yeah. We do a lot of it. It's
not
pretty
that you
fun.
Can't kill them in orange. You totally can. I shot my antelope opening weekend of gun season last year with a bow wearing, blaze orange. So it's not a big deal. It's just not the way I want to do it.
It's just a hassle.
Feels weird too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, one of the things that you've done, at least on film, that I thought is pretty cool and probably, if there's like elk tactics that I don't understand, it's this, and that's the wallow hunting side of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds so easy. Like you find water, sit up on it, but I've done it a few times, and it's not easy, right? Because you got thermals, you got all this different stuff that you got to kind of work through. There's a pretty infamous video of you shooting an elk over a wallow. I don't remember what the title of it is, but it's like a 14-year-old bull, right? Like a giant body thing.
Ambush is what it's called.
Oh, that's ambush? Okay. Yep. Yeah. So is that something that, like, that hunt kind of turns you on to the wallow thing, or is that something you've been perfecting for quite a while?
I haven't killed a bull off a wallow since then. So. Yeah. We did go back the next year and Travis came off a wallow in that area. And again, it's just situational, that particular place that we hunt. It's insanely thick and pretty predator dense.
Yeah.
The bulls definitely bugle, but not as much as other places. And you have to bugle them to like 5 feet in some of those areas, and it's impossible not to make noise. So it just creates a lot of challenges. There's not a lot of elk. And so kind of that first hunt, we had resorted basically to sit in this wallow because hadn't heard any elk in 4 days, literally hadn't seen water. We were like, man, like where are these elk drinking? And there was a pond in a place you wouldn't expect to ever hunt just because it was pretty close to a road. Sure enough, we're like, well, let's just go walk around it and see if there's animals coming in. And there are 2 wallows around the pond that you really couldn't see from the road. And we're like, well, dang, like I didn't see any real fresh elk tracks. There were elk tracks there, but I had seen a really fresh bear track. And I had a bear tag. I was like, man, we should just go sit it tonight. Maybe there's there's bears, there's elk, whatever. And so we sat it, and it wasn't, 2 hours in before I had arrowed that bull. And it was pretty insane. Some other hunter obviously had hunted it because there was kind of a rough, some sticks, little blind built there. But we kind of just went in and modified it a little bit and hunted it and killed one. The next year we invested a little more time hanging cameras and building blinds, natural blinds for season. But it's a really good way to kill them in certain areas. I don't prefer being patient like that. I'd rather run around and bugle at them and be on the move and do it that way. But I'll definitely use that tactic.
Yeah.
A, if I think it's my best chance of getting a bull killed, or B, if I know there's a really big one in the area and I'm feeling like he's going to hit a wallow.
How do you use the wind there to your advantage? Because it just feels like, I've been on some elk hunts, and it feels like when we sit a wallow, it's like, well, you have to have the wind blowing one direction or the other, kind of. And it's like when you're sitting in this little wallow or pond or whatever it is in the middle of the mountains, it's like, well, they could come from anywhere, it feels like.
Yeah, I would do one of a couple things. You can try to play the wind, which you can definitely move around the wallow in some places as the wind moves, which is what we did the day that Travis killed his bulls. We started the morning on one side of the wallow, and then the wind changed and we moved to the other side, which worked out really well, obviously. But if I was going to sit a wallow up on a mountain and not have an actual blind in there, I would definitely carry a second set of clothes, just because it's pretty tough to hike anywhere in the mountains and not sweat.
Yeah.
And so, just being able to put on some clothes that, you're not going to not have scent. Like there's going to be some scent profile, but I think you can definitely make it smaller or larger depending on how stinky you are.
Sure.
I'm very stinky.
You can eliminate some of that by, taking some extra clothing in there and cooling down, even wiping down, and then putting clean clothes on, and then not moving, not sweating, just having a less, I feel like, bubble of scent in there.
Yeah.
But if I was going to be serious about hunting a wallow, I would just pack a blind in there unless it was crazy far back in.
Yeah, like a ground blind enclosed thing. That
like
way,
an actual enclosed ground blind, and I would probably go in there well over a month before season and, manipulate some of the terrain there and vegetation to accommodate the blind and try to, tuck it in there as well as I could. And then I would show up in there again until hunting season, and I would be just extremely, I would take kind of like whitetail hunting, try not to walk in on the trail you think the elk are going to come in on. Don't be touching any branches or sticks. Just try to like tiptoe in there and get in and sit it. I don't know. I'm a big proponent of on wallows and stuff like that. Like you got to be there from sun up to sundown unless your trail camera's really telling you that they hit it at a very specific time, because all the wallows I've ever had cameras on, it seemed like it was very random of when they came through.
Yeah. Do you feel
It
like
could have been at 6 a.m. It could have been at noon. It could have been at 7:30 at night. You got to dedicate your entire day to it.
Is it worth running cameras on a wallow?
Yeah. I've never gotten any intel that's like, oh, I'm going to go kill this bull at this time, but it'll give you more information than you had, which is an advantage of some kind, whether it's a little bit or a lot. Mm-hmm. And you kind of, I think, get a sense of some of the caliber of elk or, potentially, but wallows are kind of a weird thing. If there's a lot of them, you might only see a bull there once,
Yeah.
If there's not a lot, you might hit it more regularly, but we've had cameras on wallows before that didn't see a single elk for a month and a half, and then September 1 or, late August rolls around and all of a sudden it's a new bull every day running through. And you can just tell they're moving in from somewhere else and they're starting to do their thing and looking for cows and getting all stinky and ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, that gets me fired up. I'm ready for that stuff. Living where we do, we pretty much get to leave, usually 95 to 100 degree temps and head to the mountains. And then, 16 hours, you're up there where it's, 40 at night and 65 to 70 during the day if it's good weather, and the elk hopefully are making a little noise and getting ready. And, man, it's not long for that stuff to happen. So I hope that you have a good season this year, man. Thanks for hanging out with us and kind of telling us about your experiences and whatnot. You said that y'all are going to do probably one hunt this year with Montana Wild. That'll be on YouTube?
Yeah, I'm hopefully going to be filming a hunt with my buddy Brandon Purcell, just rifle hunting mule deer in the mountains.
Yeah.
Probably towards the end of rifle season here in Montana. And then I'll be trying to shoot a couple elk with my buddy Andrew with our bows. We're going to hunt Idaho and Montana. And so
cool.
We might be filming some of that. We'll see.
How's the hoppers this year?
The hopper fishing?
Yeah.
They're not out in mass yet. I went fishing with my girlfriend yesterday, and she rode me for a little bit. If you go, you row type of deal. I actually found a pretty nice girl on the hopper, but there's not that many on the banks yet, and they're not really looking for it. But
what river did you fish?
I fished the Yellowstone.
Yeah, we got to float the Yellowstone for a half day. It's pretty sweet, man. That's a cool spot.
It's a cool river, man. I don't know. I'm glad I'm a hunter, though, because fishing is just – there's so many people.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be a pain. I think that's why Tyler and I have kind of got into the high country fishing stuff, small streams and whatnot. If you're not too hung up on giant slobs, then and you just like beautiful landscapes and pretty fish, you can get away from folks, and that's throw a 3-way on your back and go, and that's the way you find or get away from the folks,
There's some pretty big mountain cutthroats, though, if you take it seriously and do a little research.
Yeah, we haven't got into that yet. Well,
we might have to holler at you sometime.
Yeah, for real. We might have to use the Zack Boughton research, but we've tried a little bit of that. And Tyler's caught some Rios and stuff, but we just haven't got to go up north very far. When we were in Bozeman, we were talking to one of our buddies there, Garrett, and we were talking about, maybe going up and trying to find some grayling in lakes and stuff like that. And he was like, yeah, there's a lot of grizz up there. So that killed it pretty quick, so we just stayed down low.
Oh, man. You guys aren't cut out for elk hunting or high country fishing other than, I guess, in Colorado and Utah.
That's right, man. We're staying down here where there's no grizz. Hashtag no grizz. That's what we're going to name this podcast episode. So. Anyway, Zach, we appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, and good luck this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, you guys.
Yeah, sure. Now that was some killer info. Don't forget to subscribe, and a 5-star review means a ton to us.
Remember, this is your element.
Living it.
Hey guys, turkey season is in full swing right now, and if you are planning on getting after it, make sure to pick up some meat eater Phelps turkey calls to stuff into the old turkey vest or into your fanny pack right now. I carry a few different things. I like to use mouth calls, and I like to use pot calls. Mouth calls or diaphragms, I like them because it gives you hand-free calling, meaning when you're working a bird up close, you can have your gun on your knee, finger on the trigger, ready to roll, and still be making turkey sounds. I like pot calls because I just like pot calls. I enjoy calling with a pot call. whatever direction you go, including a box call, which I don't personally use too much, but they're fun and great, and I started out with them. Yanni, on the other hand, one of my main turkey hunting buddies, he loves box calls. And what's funny is I'll now and then look to him and give him the look that means get out your box call and find us a turkey. So it's not that I don't like him. I just have Yanni use his. Then I don't have to carry it. Go to Phelps Game Calls. Get calls that are made in the USA and get calls that'll get them close. Find yours at phelpsgamecalls.com today.